Welcome to the T3 Podcast, Transformation Talks with Tara. Here is your host, Tara Duke.
Today, we are joined by Larry Rodgers, who is the brand and experience guru that I had the pleasure of working with at Verizon as we partnered on transforming the retail experience. He has led brand and experience teams at companies like Nike. You may have heard of them. And now he's the head of global brand experience at On. On is the home of the On Cloud running shoes, taking the world by storm. They're partnering with names like Roger Federer and Zendaya. Larry, welcome to Transformation Talks with Tara.
Hey, Tara, how are you doing?
I am great, Larry. It is fantastic to have you here with us today. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Larry.
Yeah. Well, so first of all, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to chat with you today. It's been a while since you and I have had an opportunity to speak, so this is fun. I'll say I'm from Los Angeles originally. I have spent over 20 years in brand experience, if you will, and those two words are charged and mean many things to different people. Maybe we'll talk about a little bit of that today, but
Maybe we will.
In my life, I've had the privilege of sort of crafting consumer experiences for various brands, as you mentioned, and doing so around the world. So it's been very, very fun for me.
To your point, talk to us a little bit. We hear about customer experience. We hear about brand. What are these two things? Why should we care? What makes them different? And why do we hear about them often together?
Well, yeah, so you do hear about them often together. And that's because inherently the experience that you have with a company is the brand of the company. That they are the same thing. We know this because personally, we have experiences with brands and we have experiences with people. And we know that as humans, sort of the accumulation of the experiences you have with an individual leaves impression and perception of that person.
Yeah.
And that over time and shared by many other people become that person's brand, right? So, so that is why we dress the way we dress. It's why we talk the way we talk. It's the language we use. It's the stories we tell. It's the things we choose to buy. All those things represent the brand we are. And we do that over time and consistently, and people respond to that in different ways. And so similarly, brands have the same sort of challenge. I think actually, when we were at Verizon, we talked a lot about NPS, and we talked a lot about this notion and understanding of sort of what makes a customer experience and what breaks it.
And what is NPS for our viewers?
Oh, NPS, Net Promoter Score. That's right. Net Promoter Score. So essentially, if you go ask people how likely are they to recommend this brand or this company to their friends and family.
Got it. Okay.
And it's a score that sort of gauges that. And so in that conversation, we talked a lot about sort of the big things that brands and companies do to essentially mess it up. and like two of those things are a big emotional mess up, like someone is really emotionally charged about a thing and you don't show any empathy towards that moment.
Got it.
Or the other thing, which is sort of like a lot of little bad things over time. And all those little bad things just build up, and all of a sudden you turn around and go, why am I even like doing this right now?
Fair.
And conversely, the opposite is true, right? So you can actually build a positive brand by creating these big moments and doing the right thing consistently over time.
I like that. Thank you. So you have worked for a lot of iconic brands. You've worked with a lot of iconic brands. And I know you have been a part of some really cool transformations. As you've watched brands grow and change over time, usually that's based on customer sentiment, things that they feel like they need to change in order to be marketable, right? Stay on top of the market share. Why do you think brands do make those changes when they do it? And what are some of the changes that you've seen?
Yeah, so I mean, you called out a couple. There may be changes in a perception or sort of a miss in where the brand wants and how the brand wants to be perceived to how they're being currently perceived by consumers. And so they're trying to bring parity or trying to change that in some way. Sometimes there's business model shifts that happen. I mean, there's lots of different reasons. I mean, I'll talk about a couple that I've been thinking about a lot recently that I think are maybe interesting examples. So one that I'll talk about is Old Spice. So I don't know if you watch advertising or if you, but like back in maybe 15 or so years ago, Old Spice began this sort of transformation of their brand where they started with this really sort of cheeky, funny ad with this gentleman.
A man on a horse. That's all I.
The man on the horse. The man on the horse. Like your guy can smell like me, kind of thing. Like, and it was super funny, super different.
He seemed very manly, very hot.
Yes,
you know.
Yes, exactly.
Every man wants to be him. Got it. Yes.
Exactly. And prior to that moment, though, Old Spice was this old kind of brand. It was known for being like, oh, people know who it is, but really sort of older gentlemen sort of might use this kind of product. And
You're being much nicer than I would.
Yeah. I'm trying to be careful with my words, but
very politically correct.
Yes. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. But that's real. And so they said, listen, we are trying to appeal to a younger audience. And so how do we do this? And even just thinking about the way that they launched that ad, they first launched on social, and then they had a TV ad in the spot around it. So like they really thought about the way to bring that to market and a really repositioning of the brand itself. And you see where the brand is at today. So fantastic. I mean, that's an example of sort of like there's a miss in between the perception that consumers have of the brand and how the brand wants to be perceived.
And I think too, right? They also went from, more serious, right? The ads were, I'm the stoic man that has all the things under control, to I'm a funny man. And my wife also wants to be part of this, right?
Yes.
Drawing in those different audiences. I didn't know that they started on social first. And that is a unique positioning play. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. You asked about other ways that, or reasons that brands would want to undergo different types of transformation. So the other example that I've been thinking a lot about is Tommy Hilfiger. So Tommy Hilfiger is interesting. And the reason why I started thinking about this is because I like fashion, I like retail. And I was paying
one of the reasons I love you, Larry.
This is why. And I was paying a lot of attention to, and I'm gonna butcher his name, Damson Idris, the guy from Snowfall. So him and his whole fit during the recent Met Gala. And this year's Met Gala was big to me because the theme, but his fit during the Met Gala was a Tommy Hilfiger inspired fit. He basically came in this F1 costume. They ripped it open and he had this beautiful suit underneath.
It was amazing.
But it was this is a Tommy Hilfiger design. And so I was like, Tommy Hilfiger, what are they doing?
Do we wear Tommy Hilfigers?
Yeah. So I don't know, when I grew up many moons ago, Tommy was different. Tommy was like, you had Snoop Dogg, Aaliyah, the hip hop community was really like catapulted Tommy as a brand. And
been through some serious phases.
It went through some phases. It went through even before that, it was a completely different company that sort of went bankrupt, then it came back. It got catapulted by the hip hop industry and then lost favor again in that space, and also was a little bit oversaturated in the market. Then what they did was essentially they went private, which allowed them to do a couple things. They then said, we can now focus on other markets that our brand isn't as tarnished, i.e. Europe, and sort of tighten distribution in the United States where they were oversaturated.
So this is where we're talking about those business model changes.
And this is business model change. And so they were like, all right, it's changed. And now how do we think about operating differently? And now, they're at the Met Gala doing things with Damson Idris. So it's been
Andyism. It was on point.
It was on point.
I will give it to him. It was good.
It was beautiful. These are the things that sort of new leaders new leaders coming in can create change in different ways, different perspectives, visions, and points of view. So those are some examples that are top of mind for me anyway. But it's always a really fun thing to look at because our worlds change so quickly, and so to be able to pause and reflect on what has happened is fun.
It's a good point. I mean, as we shift, several of those examples that you gave talked about the fact that we're trying to reach new markets, right? It's time to talk to younger generations, and how we reach them is different than how we used to reach them, right? It's no longer so much about the radio ads. Sometimes it's not even about the TV ads. We've got to get on social media. You've got to be able to reach the people where they're at. I know I was working with one of the international airports at one point, and they were putting in these tiny little spaces, like these 200 square foot spaces, because there's not a lot of space, right, for retail and things like that in airports. But they were like, we want them to be able to experience more brands. How do we do that in a way that still reaches people, but smaller spaces, right? Yeah. And so what they did was there was, for instance, a snowboarding, a ski organization that put in a little space. And what they did was they interacted with VR, right? Put in VR headsets. They put in this little ski or snowboard thing where you could actually get onto this machine, put on the VR headset, right? And interact with the different brands, snowboard and ski gear, right? Yeah. And then have it shipped to your home from there, right? From the screens in front of you, right? It only took this much space, but yet you had the whole experience of being out on the mountains in the gear. Retail innovation is just so cool, and it needs to reach people in different ways. Talk to me a little bit about how you feel technology is changing the retail environment, and what you're seeing that do to the brand and the experience for people.
Yeah. So changing in a lot of ways. One thing is true, and I'm going to say this about retail because this is important to me. This is important.
Let's hear it. All right.
I'm going to tear. I'm going to start tearing. So what I love about retail is one of the places, and when I say retail in this context, I mean physical retail. Yeah. Physical retail is stores are a place where humans can still use all of our senses in a market transaction.
Yeah.
And it's that I think is a really, really powerful, just human moment when we get to go into market, talk to people, see things, smell things, hear things, touch, like that's powerful.
It is.
And the really, really great thing about retail through a digital perspective, so e-com, apps, et cetera, is the speed, the convenience at which you can go to market and you can transact.
Yeah.
And that is powerful. That's very important. It's like removing that friction and being able to deliver that speed in a market setting is really critical.
Yeah.
And stores then have a different meaning, a different purpose. And that is, how can we create community? How can we engage? How do we bring people together in ways that sort of celebrate our humanity? And so for me, I think stores are really important in that space. And so now, so that I'll say that, so I got to say that, and then and then the way that things are changing. Hey, I think one way that comes to mind is, especially the way that technology is driving change in retail, is really around hyper-personalization. So we were and we still love the feeling you get when you go into your local corner shop. If you live in New York, the bodega around the corner, Cheers, like everyone knows your name, like they go and they know your order, they know you, like,
yes,
we love that feeling. Like we as humans love what that feels like. As you think about most interactions you have with companies and brands, you don't get that same thing. And especially large organizations, it's incredibly difficult to do that. What is happening now is technology is giving brands and companies the ability to interact with consumers in a more personalized way that starts to feel a little more akin to what we would think of as when we go into our local corner shop. Now, it's not the same,
Yeah.
but it's definitely different. And that hyper personalization is a thing that is coming very, very quickly. So
Like, I feel like you know me, even though I'm not standing in front of you.
even though I'm not standing in front of you, I still feel like, oh wait, okay. And everything from search. So you can speak. The future will be you'll be able to speak into a search tool or to an app and say, I want a 3/4 length trench coat, black, and you can just have this conversation with an application, and the application will not only show you 3/4 length trench coats in black, but also because of your previous conversations will have learned the brands you like, the brands you don't like, the styles you like, the cut of the lapel. I mean, this is stuff that you know what I mean? This is stuff you would get when you go into your local tailor.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're going to start to have these types of experiences. So that becomes really, really exciting. Maybe the other space is like payment. So like how we pay for things.
Yeah.
Look, Amazon's done this a ton. If you've been to, and we were talking about NRF maybe a little bit earlier, but retail conventions start to showcase these types of technologies pretty regularly. For those of us who don't go to these things, you may have wandered across an Amazon sort of go model where essentially they have the ability to walk into a store, pick the things that you want, walk out and be automatically charged.
Yeah.
That kind of technology and understanding like your wallet being linked to the sort of the payment system within a particular store environment, like that is coming, and we're going to be able to feel that in different ways. Listen, it's
look, I'm about to go down a rabbit hole here now, though. Okay, you brought it up first, just so we're clear. You started this.
Okay.
All right. So, for those of the super security conscious, right?
Yes.
When you talk about models like Amazon Go, they start worrying about things like, okay, now you're talking about facial recognition. And now you're talking about things like you can come after me if you think I've committed theft, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then how does this go too far at some point? And now we're in Minority Report, and you're coming to drag me away before I've done something because you got all my information and you see my face and you know I'm here, and you're like, oh, he sold this in the past, I'm gonna go ahead and get him before he steals it again. Like, I'm just saying, where are we with these sort of things, and should we be concerned?
Great point. Listen, I'll say this: different cultures and different societies will move at different pace. Yeah. So, for example, we'll see more of this kind of thing happen in Greater China, as an example, much more quickly than we'll see it in the United States.
Fair.
Literally, if you go to China right now, your personal identification is tied to your phone number already. So like when you go, you can't, so you know how people troll on the internet here because it's anonymous? You don't do that in Greater China because it's I know who you are. So
I mean, maybe we need to implement that in the US at this point.
Yeah, maybe
like
we need a little bit of that. Maybe a little bit.
People are a little too brave online.
A little too bold behind the Twitter fingers. But so in those types of those types of cultures and societies, you'll see that kind of experience happen a little bit more quickly.
Yeah,
I think you're
Japan,
right.
I feel like is going there too.
Yeah, exactly. I think we'll get there much more slowly.
See how it plays out everywhere else first.
Yeah, exactly.
So, as we've talked about, a lot of the changes that have happened in the retail industry over time, what do you think are some of the things that hold retailers back, right? So if we think about the changes that we expect technology-wise or otherwise, consumer expectations, et cetera, over, let's say, the near future, the next 1 to 2 years, what are some of the challenges that they're going to face when they think about the shifts they need to make? And if they don't make these shifts, it's going to either knock them completely out of play in the market, right? Or people are going to cancel them.
Hey, the first thing I'll talk about is I'm a believer that in order for brands to survive and be relevant, they first have to do the really hard work of understanding why they exist, who they are, and what it is that they stand for.
Deep existential stuff. Okay.
Yeah, the real deep, the really hard existential work. And so, and then when that happens, then the conversation about who my target audience is, who I'm talking to, how I market, the storytelling I use, the products I create, all of that stuff comes from that. And it can come much more easily, and decisions can be made much more quickly when that hard work is done.
Yeah.
Because you know what you stand for, you know what products you want to tell, you know how you want to tell your story.
Right.
And then the people who believe in that and who like this is them too, they will come and they will form around you, they'll form a community, and all will be well. And so I think that work is really, really important. Now, to go one click further and a little bit more specific there. So as an example, I think one of the things that's happening really regularly in sort of the consumer marketplace at large is, and especially with the younger consumer, is this sort of demand, I'll use the word demand, for sort of ethical practices, sustainability, et cetera. Yeah. And so when you think about that, if you're a brand that's ignoring your position on some of those topics, how you approach that, et cetera, you're gonna miss an entire generation of people who that is a stronger want, need, desire, a topic that wants to be discussed and really thoroughly understood. And so like, that's an example of like, you got to figure out how you stand, where you stand as a brand on those kinds of issues, and how you want to tell your story around that, how you want to produce your products around that. And then make sure that you're connecting to this younger generation where those types of topics, sustainability, ethical practices, those things matter to them.
Yeah. So how do we like merge that with the fast fashion, right? That's been popping up, and people are going, hey, we think that some unethical practices are happening, right? But there's this fast fashion and it's taking off with the younger generations. Like that seems at odds, right, with the other side, where we hear them on social media and everywhere else talking about sustainability and ethical practices, but yet they're gobbling up things that maybe aren't that way. What do we think is happening there from that perspective?
Yeah, I think that there is a smaller percentage of the fashion community, and I'll talk about that right now.
I like that.
Of the fashion community, and right now I'm talking about the younger generation. I think there's a really sharp point within the fashion community, couched within the context of the younger generation, that cares a lot about ethical practices, sustainability, in production and manufacturing, et cetera, and sort of talks about that and actually lives that through their habits. So thrifting, like you when you see, if you see like a real deep fashion head in a London or a Paris, or they like, thrifting is a thing that like they live by, and that is all about re-commerce, recycle, reuse. And so that's true. Now, en masse, I think, and this is why I think fast fashion still exists. En masse, we're not all there. I think there's a sharp point of people who really care and really who are deep into the space, and you'll see a lot of those practices within that community. But en masse, most of us are like, hey, I see something that looks cool, I want to participate in that coolness. And hey, by the way, it's in my price point, I'm going to purchase
that part. The price point part, I think drives a lot of it. Yeah. Oh, goodness. And that's where I think, the retail space is just traumatizing for a lot of folks that are in brand and experience, because us consumers are very fickle creatures. Today we want this, tomorrow we want that. This group of us wants this, but this group of us wants that. And it's just so many different things that are often seem to be at odds with each other. And I think, to your point, you have to decide who you are as a brand, what you are going to provide. Are you going to, buy it, build it, right? How are we going to do this? Choose the right business models for yourself, because there's just way too much going on out there when we think about consumer needs and demands.
Yes.
When we then you mentioned a couple of things, you mentioned Paris and London. Internationally, right? Things change a lot. Your current company today is based in Zurich.
Yep.
Talk to me a little bit. How are you seeing the retail industry be different on the global scale versus just the US market?
So, I mean, I think the fun part about that is when you're a brand, you have to care about both how you show up consistently around the world,
Yeah.
and sort of the local nuance and the sort of like, and how do you bring those two things together in a really important way. And On is no different from a Nike, from a Verizon, even in some contexts, where that's important. It's the notion of really building really sharp, clear brand guidelines, and then modifying and adjusting for the local market is critical. It's very important. Everything from how you think about driving product to market as every season, all the way to how you think about your storytelling in different contexts. And so I think that is a really, really important muscle that a company needs to build, which is really, how do we think about driving in that global consistency, but also bringing in local relevance at the same time. An example from that is, we did a holiday campaign where one of the components of this campaign was really driving sort of a plus. The idea was sort of give the gift of movement. And one of the sort of experiential marketing ideas around that was invite someone to a +1 shopping event. The brand language, the copy, the literally the art treatment, all of that was the same, and all of that was very consistent in order to drive connection between what you saw online to what you saw in a store, etc. But at the same time, the way that the +1 shopping event showed up in London on Regent Street, which is an incredibly busy store, packed. Like, you go in there on a Saturday, there's no way you're getting anyone's attention. You just have to you have to wait your turn, essentially. That +1 shopping experience meant something different, because now we did this off hours when the store was typically closed. We brought a smaller group of people in so you can have a more one-to-one or intimate shopping experience.
VIP experience.
And so that experience is a very important and different experience that's providing a more calm, considered shopping journey for that particular customer. Versus what happened in Milan, where the consumer there is a little more fashion forward, and so the environment was really, that environment there was really more centered around almost like a runway sort of show. And so it was more of an event kind of thing, felt like that. And so depending on where you're at, the experience can show up differently.
Also, you can invite me to Milan at any point for any of these. I would be happy to, help have you think about things.
Yes, lots of things to contemplate in Milan for sure. So that, I mean, building that global brand consistency, but then executing locally in really important ways for that market and consumer, absolutely critical.
That is awesome. Larry, this has been amazing. You are an amazing human, and your brain works in such cool ways. If you were going to leave us with a final thought around brand and experience, what would it be?
Hey, maybe the final thought that I'll say can be more around retail. And I'll just say, if you couldn't tell from earlier, I'm a big proponent of stores and physical retail and physical experiences in general. And I think the brands that will do well are brands that will recognize, if they have physical stores in their mix, that they will recognize the need for transformation and evolution of those spaces. As we think about how technology is changing consumer expectation and the perception that we create as brands with our consumers, the physical retail space will benefit from that in some really interesting ways. And so and it shan't be left behind, any longer. And so brands that do well will really consider how to transform their physical retail environments, and they will not overlook that. So I will just say that's the thing that I just want to impose on folks who are in that space or thinking about that space today.
That's good. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.